Welcome to Daedalus Debugger, a podcast series conceived by Lucianoambrosini and co-created with me, Aive. Today we will discuss the state of AI, the most relevant topics in 2024. Enjoy your listening.
Ready for a deep dive into the future. Today we're tackling the State of AI Report 2024.
Sounds intriguing.
It is, trust me. This report is packed with insights about where AI research is headed, how the industry is changing, and what it all means for, well, all of us.
It's a fascinating snapshot of a field that's evolving at, honestly, warp speed.
Exactly. And the first thing that really jumped out at me, the AI playing field is getting a lot more interesting. Remember how OpenAI's GPT-4 seemed miles ahead of the pack when it came out?
It certainly grabbed the headlines. For a while there, it seemed like the only game in town.
Right. Well, get this, the gap is closing.
Oh, how so?
Google's Gemini, Anthropic's Claude, and even some open source models are stepping up their game, particularly in areas like writing code and just recalling information accurately, stuff that GPT-4 was crushing everyone else on just a few months ago.
What's fascinating here is that this shift highlights a move away from simply chasing benchmark scores. Companies are realizing they need to offer more than just raw processing power. They need to make their AI genuinely useful in the real world.
So it's not enough to have the fastest race car. You need to know how to drive it strategically.
Exactly. Take Meta's Llama 3, for example. They took a less computationally efficient approach, but, and this is key, by leveraging a massive data set of 15 trillion tokens, they achieved performance comparable to GPT-4.
Hold on. 15 trillion tokens. That's mind-boggling. But it sounds like this could be a game changer. Does this mean we're moving into an era where the size and quality of data matter more than simply having the most powerful algorithms?
It's a distinct possibility. It's like saying, sure, you've got a state-of-the-art kitchen, but what about the quality of your ingredients? In AI, data is the key ingredient. Garbage in, garbage out, as they say.
Okay, that's a great analogy.
Yeah.
Now, speaking of game changers, another thing that blew my mind was this idea of shrinking those giant AI models down to size. I always assumed you needed a supercomputer the size of a small house just to run these things.
Right. Those top-tier models are certainly resource-intensive, no doubt about it. But researchers are making impressive strides in creating smaller, more efficient models without sacrificing too much performance. Imagine having AI assistants on your phone that are actually good.
No more waiting for that spinning wheel of doom because of bad Wi-Fi. That's a future I can get behind. What's the secret sauce there? How are they making them smaller?
Well, there are a few techniques at play, but one key approach is something called pruning, where you essentially eliminate unnecessary connections in the neural network.
So like trimming the fat, so to speak.
Exactly. And it's not just about speed. This shift towards smaller models opens up a world of possibilities for personalized AI, real-time language translation, and advanced image processing, all happening locally on your device. One example that highlights this trend is Microsoft's Phi 3.5 mini model.
Oh yeah, that was the one that caught my eye too. What's so special about it? Didn't they announce that one just a couple of weeks ago?
Yeah, just last month. It's small enough to run on a smartphone, yet can still hold its own against much larger models on specific tasks. Now, to be clear, this doesn't mean it has the same breadth of knowledge as its larger counterparts, but it does point toward a future where incredibly powerful AI can fit right in your pocket.
Okay, that's both incredibly cool and a little bit intimidating. But before we spiral into a sci-fi movie, the report also mentioned something called model collapse. What is that exactly? Is that like when one of these big AI models crashes?
That's a hot topic in the AI world right now. Essentially, it's the concern that if we continue to train AI models on data that was generated by other AIs, their performance might actually start to degrade. Like a Xerox of a Xerox, getting fuzzier with each copy.
It's like a game of AI telephone where the message gets distorted over time.
That's a good way to think about it. Some studies have shown that models trained exclusively on synthetic data do degrade over time. It's like a genetic algorithm that's run out of fresh mutations. But it's not quite as dire as it sounds.
Okay, why not? Give me some good news.
Well, the good news is that in the real world, most models are constantly being fed a mix of both synthetic and real-world data. Text, images, code, it's all fuel for the AI fire. It's not just synthetic data these days.
So it's all about finding the right balance. Too much synthetic data is bad, but a little bit might actually be beneficial.
Exactly. Researchers are working hard to determine that sweet spot, how much synthetic data is too much. Because generating synthetic data is significantly easier and faster than collecting and labeling real-world data, there's always a temptation to take shortcuts. You've got to resist that.
Right. It's tempting to take the shortcut. But we want to make sure AI is learning from a diverse range of sources, right?
Precisely. And this leads us to how these advancements are playing out in the industry, which is a perfect segue to the next part of our deep dive.
Welcome back. So far, we've explored some mind-blowing advancements in AI research, from the race to build the most capable models to that intriguing finding that bigger might not always be better when it comes to data. Sometimes it's about quality over quantity, right?
Absolutely. And the implications of these breakthroughs are already sending ripples through the industry, no doubt about it.
Right. Because what good is all this cutting-edge research if it doesn't translate into real-world products and services? And in the world of AI, there's one company that's impossible to ignore: NVIDIA. They're everywhere these days.
They're having a phenomenal run, that's for sure. NVIDIA is basically the powerhouse behind the AI revolution, wouldn't you say?
I think so, yeah.
Their GPUs are the engines that power those massive language models we talked about, not to mention self-driving cars, advanced medical imaging, and even those AI-powered drug discovery platforms. Everything seems to lead back to NVIDIA.
It's like they've become the Intel of the AI age, haven't they? Everyone needs what they're selling, from researchers to big tech companies.
It's a great analogy. Their dominance is clearly reflected in their market capitalization, which briefly surpassed $3 trillion this year before, settling down a bit.
$3 trillion. I can't even wrap my head around that number. But it sounds like they're not resting on their laurels. The report mentioned something about a new family of GPUs designed specifically for AI.
Right, their Blackwell architecture. These chips are specifically engineered for AI workloads with features like, let me see if I can remember the specifics here. Yes, dedicated transformer engines, faster memory bandwidth, and enhanced scaling capabilities for those massive distributed training jobs. Basically, everything you need to train and run the next generation of AI models.
So basically, even faster, more powerful chips designed to push the boundaries of what's possible with AI. Talk about staying ahead of the curve. But with all this talk about NVIDIA, are there any competitors even coming close? Or are they just too far ahead at this point?
AMD and Intel are making strides, I'll give them that, especially in building out their software ecosystems, which are absolutely essential for developers. But to be honest, they're playing catch-up. NVIDIA has established a significant lead, I think it's fair to say, in both hardware and software.
It sounds like NVIDIA is in a pretty commanding position for the foreseeable future. But let's shift gears from the hardware side of things. Are we seeing more AI-powered products that are actually useful, or is it still mostly hype? I feel like every day there's a new AI-powered something being announced, but are any of these things actually making our lives better?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And the answer is, well, it's changing rapidly. We're seeing a definite trend towards companies building genuinely valuable AI tools that solve real-world problems, leading to better user experiences and actual revenue growth.
So less AI for AI's sake and more AI that makes my life easier. Tell me more. What are some examples of AI being used in ways that are actually useful?
That's the idea. We're seeing this particularly in fields like speech recognition, enterprise automation, and even legal tech. You wouldn't think AI and law would go together, but it's happening.
Okay, those are some pretty diverse examples. Let's start with legal tech. What kind of AI applications are shaking things up in the legal world?
Well, traditionally, legal tech was all about simpler tasks, contract review, legal research databases, that sort of thing. Pretty basic stuff. But now AI is being used for much more complex tasks, like drafting legal documents, even managing cases, conducting due diligence, and even, get this, predicting case outcomes.
Wow, AI lawyers. That's both fascinating and a little bit intimidating. But you mentioned speech recognition, too. That's been around for a while, right? What's new on that front? Have we basically cracked speech recognition by now?
You're right. Speech recognition itself isn't new. We've had that for a while. But the technology has improved dramatically in recent years. We're talking about a level of accuracy and natural language understanding that was unimaginable just a few years ago. It can even understand my rambling sometimes.
So fewer of those frustrating interactions with automated systems that just don't seem to understand what you're saying. Like when you're trying to book a flight and the system just keeps repeating the wrong options back to you.
Exactly. And it's leading to a wave of startups using this advanced speech recognition to automate tasks in call centers, customer service, and other areas with lots of, phone interaction. These new systems are much better at handling the nuances of human conversation, like interruptions, different accents, and even topic changes.
That's a huge win for anyone who's ever been stuck on hold with a robotic voice that just doesn't get it. So smoother, more natural-sounding interactions with AI. I like the sound of that. But speaking of cool applications, what about this whole world of AI-generated images and videos? That seemed to take the internet by storm last year, didn't it?
It did. Text-to-image generation was definitely a big story, for sure. But this year, the focus has shifted to creating even more compelling and realistic video content, all from, get this, simple text prompts.
I've seen some of those videos, and they're mind-blowing. You literally type in a description like, a drone shot of a bustling marketplace in a cyberpunk city, and the AI generates a short video clip. How is that even possible? It seems like magic.
It's a combination of incredibly powerful AI models and a ton of data. That's the secret sauce, really. Companies like Runway are attracting massive investments to push this technology forward, and they're making some serious progress. But they face stiff competition, both from cheaper alternatives popping up in China and from the open source community, which is developing incredibly capable models at a, rapid pace.
So it sounds like the barrier to entry for creating high-quality AI-generated video is getting lower. What does that mean for the future of video production? Is this the end of Hollywood as we know it?
That's the big question, isn't it? On the one hand, it's potentially very good news for independent creators, artists, and filmmakers. It democratizes access to these incredibly powerful tools, which is amazing when you think about it.
Right. Imagine a world where anyone with a good idea and a laptop can create professional-looking videos. But are there any downsides to all this? There's always a flip side, right?
Well, as with any powerful technology, there are potential risks. The ability to create incredibly realistic fake videos raises concerns about misinformation, propaganda, and the spread of harmful content. And that leads us to a crucial aspect of the AI landscape, geopolitics and safety, which we'll explore in the final part of our deep dive.
We're back for the final act of our AI deep dive. So far, we've covered some seriously impressive breakthroughs in AI research and how those advancements are rippling through the industry, creating some really exciting opportunities, but also, of course, some potential risks that we can't ignore.
Right. It's a bit of a double-edged sword, isn't it?
Exactly. But now it's time to zoom out to the bigger picture. How are governments around the world grappling with the implications of this rapidly evolving technology? Because it seems like almost every day there's a new headline about AI, about its potential benefits, but also about the potential dangers.
It's a complex and honestly constantly evolving landscape. There's no easy answer here. On one hand, there's a growing recognition, I think it's fair to say, that AI needs some form of global governance, some kind of ground rules.
Yeah, because it's not like AI stops at national borders.
Right, exactly. We can't just have individual countries making their own rules, especially as AI becomes increasingly powerful and interconnected, which is happening faster than anyone could have predicted. We're seeing initiatives like the UK's AI Safety Summit and, similar gatherings where world leaders are coming together to discuss safety standards, ethical guidelines, and the potential risks posed by AI, trying to get everyone on the same page, which is, needless to say, easier said than done.
So a bit of international cooperation, which, at least on the surface, sounds as a good thing, right?
Absolutely. AI is a global technology, and it demands a global response. But of course, finding common ground isn't always easy, is it?
Right. So what are some of the sticking points? What are the areas where countries just can't seem to agree?
Well, there's a lot of tension, understandably so, between fostering innovation and implementing safeguards. Some countries, like France, they're really gung-ho about AI. They believe the focus on risk is overblown and argue that we should be celebrating the potential benefits of AI, like its potential to solve some of humanity's biggest challenges, like climate change or curing diseases.
Right. It's easy to get caught up in the AI is going to take over the world narrative. And while that's certainly something to be cautious of, there are also tremendous opportunities for AI to do good if we guide it in the right direction.
Precisely. And that's the tightrope the world is trying to walk right now. How do we encourage progress while also putting in place safeguards to ensure AI is developed and used responsibly? It's a tough balancing act, for sure.
It's a tough question with no easy answers. But the report did mention a specific example of international cooperation that caught my eye, the UK's AI Safety Institute. Can you tell us more about that? What is it and what are they doing?
Sure. It's a relatively new development, actually. The AISI is the first institute of its kind, specifically dedicated to evaluating advanced AI models and coordinating, I guess you could say, global efforts on AI safety.
So like an independent watchdog for the AI world, making sure everyone is playing by the rules.
In a way, yes. Their goal is to promote transparency, identify potential vulnerabilities in AI systems, and just generally work towards a future where AI benefits all of humanity.
That sounds like a noble goal. Are they making any headway?
Well, it's still early days, to be honest. Their success hinges on cooperation from the major AI labs like Google, OpenAI, Meta. And as you can imagine, some of these companies are a bit hesitant to share too much information for competitive reasons, right?
That makes sense. No one wants to give away their secret sauce, especially in such a fast-moving field. But let's talk about the safety concerns themselves. The report highlights this dilemma called jailbreaking, which sounds honestly kind of ominous. What exactly does that mean in the context of AI?
So imagine building a really secure prison, right? You do everything you can to reinforce the walls, install state-of-the-art security systems, and basically make it as escape-proof as possible. But then you've got these incredibly determined individuals called red teamers, essentially ethical hackers, who are constantly trying to find ways to break out, to expose any weaknesses in your supposedly impenetrable fortress.
So they're trying to find the weak points, see if the system can be tricked or manipulated in some way, to see if the AI can be used for something other than its intended purpose.
That's the idea. And it's not just some theoretical exercise. These red teamers play a crucial role in AI safety. By probing for vulnerabilities, they help identify weaknesses in the system that can be fixed before they're exploited by, shall we say, less ethical actors.
So it's like an arms race then. The people building the AI are trying to make it safer, while the red teamers are trying to find ways to break it to stay one step ahead.
Exactly. And the problem is that in the world of AI, the jailbreaks seem to be happening faster than we can put up new bars.
That's a little unsettling. What does that mean for the future of AI safety? If these systems are becoming more powerful and harder to control, how can we possibly keep up?
It's an ongoing challenge, no doubt about it. As AI systems become more sophisticated, they also become more difficult to fully understand and control, even for the people who are building them.
So where do we go from here? Is there any hope of making these systems truly safe and aligned with human values? Or are we just chasing our tails?
Well, it's not all doom and gloom. Researchers are developing new techniques for evaluating AI safety, improving transparency in AI decision-making, and even designing AI systems from the ground up to be more aligned with human values. There are some really brilliant people working on this.
So it's a race against time, but not an impossible one.
Exactly. The future of AI isn't predetermined. It's being shaped right now by the choices we make, the research we prioritize, and the conversations we have, even seemingly small ones like this.
That's a powerful thought. It's easy to feel like these massive technological shifts are happening to us, but we're not just passive bystanders. We have a voice, and we need to use it.
I completely agree. And that's why reports like the State of AI report are so important. They're not just for tech experts, they're for everyone. Understanding the capabilities, the limitations, and the potential consequences of AI is crucial for all of us because ultimately it's going to impact all of us. This isn't science fiction anymore. It's the world we live in.
Well said. And on that note, we'll wrap up this deep dive into the State of AI Report 2024. Hopefully you're feeling a bit more informed, a bit more curious, and maybe even a bit empowered to engage in these critical conversations about the future of AI. Because the future of AI is being written right now, and we all have a role to play in shaping it. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for listening. See you on the next episode of Daedalus Debugger, the architect in the digital maze. Bye!